think there was many hotel rooms that we probably were somewhat naked all together, which is crazy. I might have initiated that, but
yeah.
Look, what do you get? Like, we're 20-something-year-olds, like, in different states, like, randomly playing music. Like, what else are we gonna do?
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000s New Jersey punk rock scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Jeremy Hernandez's eyes were open to the punk rock scene when he first heard bands like Fugazi and Quicksand. This led him to playing with bands like Sticker, Highstrung, Humble Beginnings, Bigwig, Near Miss, and now his current band's A Balance Between and Red Hymns. I met Jeremy when he was in Highstrung, but didn't really get to know him until he joined Humble Beginnings about 20 years ago. And since tomorrow is the Lane Meyer Humble Beginnings Jettison reunion show, I thought it would be a swell idea to go back in time and see what led him on his path to living and breathing music for the past 2 decades. I asked him to chat, and he said, "Sure thing, foil," and here's what we talk about. Sean Lane Meyer's old house, aggressive inline skating, the video of the first Sticker show, John from Bigwig buying his bass and not paying him for a long time, the transition from Sticker to Highstrung, the Highstrung demo tape, why didn't we put actual years on the dates of flyers, the deck show at Barker's house with Dillinger 4 that got shut down, Pat from Highstrung being the GOAT on drums, where did the name 334 come from, Chris from Humble's Basement, Eyeball Records, and Alan Duche, or Duchesse, I think that's how you say his name, the Ernie Ball competition, Evan from Saves the Day being in the band for a hot minute, the Humble Beginnings Lane Meyer tour, his stint in Bigwig, how Near Miss came about, Fearless Records' suggestion for revisions to his band Near Miss, moving back to Jersey, and a ton more. Now, for the past 6 or 7 episodes, I've been promoting the Lane Meyer Humble Jettison show, and this will be the last time that you have to hear it in the intro. However, last week I jokingly said it was sold out. Well, it actually did. And if you did not get a ticket, I know there are a lot of people on Facebook selling them, especially in the North Jersey pop punk group. So go there and check it out. And I think a good way, if you are selling a ticket and you can't go, maybe hashtag it, like hashtag Lane Meyer show or Lane Meyer tickets. I know there's many other bands, but you don't want to be like hashtag Lane Meyer Humble Beginnings Jettison tickets because it's just fucking insane. So I think maybe just put hashtag Lane Meyer tickets if you are selling them so people can find them and people can search that and hopefully you guys can connect. I feel bad for the people who did not get a ticket, but how many more fucking times could I have told you in these intros to just spend the $15 weeks ago and get it? So shame on you. As always, thank you to the people who've donated to the podcast. If you'd like to do so as well, just go to thiswasthescene.com and send whatever you'd like. It just helps me again with the $20 a month to keep this thing alive. And I've got merch on the website, so if you just go to thiswasthescene.com, you'll scroll down and there's some shirts, and so go buy them. And if you have not purchased the re-release on I Surrender Records of Lane Meyer's first album, Stories for the Big Screen, which is on green vinyl, then go to isurrenderrecords.com and do so. This is a limited remastered pressing of 250 copies that are on green vinyl. Yes, again, I'm saying that again. Has an etching on one side that says, "God, I miss you. God, I miss this place." And it will be the only place to find our cover of With or Without You since we won't be releasing that remastered digitally. You can find this at thiswasthescene.com. And you can also go to the Lane Meyer Instagram page, which is Lane Meyer Band. It's got some pictures of the vinyl. There's a contest going on there. So if you tag a friend and like the page and follow it, then you're entered to win a free copy of the vinyl. And that contest ends today, so you might want to go do that. If you're at the show tomorrow and want to buy me a drink, I like IPAs. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who you know would love some nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. Mr. Jeremy Hernandez, hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Michael.
How are you in this fine, Tuesday? Tuesday, it's the Tuesday before the show.
It is. The butterflies are in the stomach.
You get nervous? Besides the butterflies?
I'm not nervous, but just... it's been so long after, the last time we did the reunion. So it's been a good, 10 years?
Was it 2008?
2008. I mean, that's crazy that it's been 10 years.
I was talking to Sean yesterday. I'm getting so nostalgic this week, and we're not going to talk about me this whole time, don't worry. But I was getting so nostalgic because I've been here, and I said to him, that 20 years ago, it's funny because everyone listening I'll usually ask who I'm talking to where they are these days. Jeremy is in Rochelle Park, and I know that because I am about 20 steps away from his apartment in Sean's apartment, even though we haven't seen each other because I just flew in yesterday.
Yeah.
But we're all in New Jersey right now, and I was talking to Sean. I said, it's crazy because 20 years ago, this was the summer that our CD came out and Humble's first CD came out, both our first CDs, and that whole summer we were always hanging out in Fairlawn at Sean's house, and Fairlawn is right next to Rochelle Park, basically. We drove by his old exit yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I said it's like we went in a time warp back to that point, and we're here, and this is the first reunion show in the summer we've ever done since we broke up.
You should have just went to the house and said, "Hey, can we just stand on your roof for a couple minutes?"
I told him, I said we should just go and climb and just sit there and start drinking 40s like Black Cobra.
Is that what we did? Did we actually drink up there?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Crazy. I thought I was straight edge then. Maybe not.
Well, I mean, me and Sean did. That was the first time I ever finished a 40 in my life. I remember I kept the empty bottle there, and every time we went there, I was like, "That's the one. That's the first one." But I finished. But so I want to talk. So anyone listening, obviously, we're on episode. This will be 19. Yeah, you were almost 20. I actually have an interview before you. You are technically 20, but the one that's going to launch that was recorded before you is going to launch next week. So you are going to be 19.
I'll settle.
But Jeremy, if anyone listening, he has been in about 10,000 bands since he was. We'll find out what age, but he's been in bands. From Sticker to Highstrung to Humble, Bigwig. He had Near Miss, and then he did Balance in Between. Was there anything between Near Miss?
A Balance Between.
A Balance Between. I'm sorry. It was, and then Red Hymns now as well.
Yeah,
and then isn't there like another band right now you're into?
I'm doing another band with Dan Pellick and my brother-in-law Doug Robinson that sang for The Sleeping. We're kind of doing something right now, and
oh my God, that's awesome.
Instrumental thing. There's a lot going on. I don't know how I do it.
Yeah, dude. Jeremy has been just constantly making music for a really long time. So I thought it'd be awesome. Consider this podcast episode is going to launch the day before our Humble Beginnings Lane Meyer Jettison reunion. That's going to be at it's going to launch this Friday. So right now it's Tuesday. We're recording this. When you're listening, you were listening the day before. And Humble just had their EP re-released on I Surrender Records, which is out on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere, so you can go download it and stream it and listen to it. And it's one of my favorite CDs. But I want to go back. I want to take Jeremy, have us take us back to the beginning. So let's start through all that information. As I do every interview, what got you into music? What bands got you into music? Let's say it that way.
I mean, there's so many. It goes back so long. But I mean, as far as anything like, punk rock or hardcore or whatever, I would say like bands like, Minor Threat and Fugazi were like my hugest, biggest influences being young, straight edge scene, things like that.
Well, tell me, how young is young when you started listening to these guys?
I would say probably about like 15 years old is when I first got into like punk rock.
How'd you find it though? How'd you find it?
Before that was, I would say, definitely like Thrasher magazine. You know what I mean? Like I actually still have it. A thing on Fugazi, and I was like, oh, that guy looks familiar. Like, is that the guy from Minor Threat? And I did some research, and yeah, it was. And then I was just like blown away by Fugazi. Still am today.
Yeah.
So I would say like with punk rock, that's probably the first influence. Before that was just like, metal and Michael Jackson and stuff that you grow up early, when you're young.
Yeah.
But definitely like Fugazi and Minor Threat. And then I think the first time I heard, I guess if you want to call it more melodic punk, fast punk, whatever, was probably Bad Religion, honestly.
Yeah.
A friend of mine gave me Against the Grain from Bad Religion. Mm-hmm. And we used to go out and skate to that like constantly. This is prior to picking up an instrument.
So you were a big skater, like you were a skateboarder, not a inline aggressive skater.
Yes, a skateboarder. I did rollerblade. I was guilty of rollerblades after the fact, maybe for a little bit. For exercise.
Did Heiner ever tell you how me and him used to do that all the time? We were like big into that. Yeah, he was big into aggressive inlining.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I could see him on rollerblades actually, now that you say it.
He was good. He was really good. Okay, so you're listening, you're 15, you're skateboarding, you are straight edge at the time, which is, I mean, I'm remembering it's kind of easy to be straight edge, but it was also where shit's being introduced to kids, and it's not like we could walk in a liquor store and stuff, but it was easy to get weed, and some kids were started doing harder stuff for that later on. But you decided like, I just want to not do any of that shit.
Yeah, all throughout high school, I never did anything. I never had a drink. I don't think I drank until I was probably, I don't know, maybe like 21. I don't know, maybe even a little after that. I can't really remember 100%, but definitely throughout high school, I never messed with anything.
What was the point? Like, not the point. What was your reasoning? Like, why you felt so?
I don't know. I think like I got so heavily into that like Discord Records type of sound back then, and all of those bands were, I guess somewhat straight edge, or not even promoting it, but like, there was lots of that kind of talk in their lyrics. So I think I gravitated towards that just for a while,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the people like growing up through high school, like, like you see some people just screwing up so much that I just didn't want to be involved in that,
Okay. Now let's get into Sticker. Is that the first band you got into?
Yeah, as far as like playing any sort of punk rock, yes, definitely. Before that, I started playing bass on my own. I was like, I don't even know. I just asked for a bass for Christmas, and my mom got me a bass, and I like wanted to play bass. I don't even know why. I think I really liked Flea a lot growing up.
Yeah.
Early Chili Pepper stuff, and I was like, oh, that dude's amazing. And I loved Jane's Addiction. I loved Eric Avery that played with them. So I got a bass and played bass, took lessons for like about a year. I was miserable at taking lessons. I hated it.
What was the stuff that would make you like try to learn?
I mean, just stupid scales, and like I just wanted to play other music, you know what I mean, other people's music.
Yeah. And
I went through like 2 or 3 teachers, then I found this one teacher that was like, hey, let's learn some songs that you like, and I started learning random songs, and that was kind of cool. So yeah, so the Sticker thing, everybody was in the same high school. So it was this dude, Billy Petrino, that played guitar, Jack Hornish played drums, and this kid, Craig Marshall, played bass. He kind of basically started the band. It was his band prior to me even joining it. And he started singing, and then they had another singer, and I was always friends with those dudes, and they were like, hey, do you want to just like come sing? And I was like, well, I don't really sing, I play bass, like, and they were like, yeah, but just do it. I was like, okay, like I'll do it, so I learned a bunch of their songs, and the first show I ever played, I actually have it on DVD. My friend Craig that played bass in the band, he like transferred it from VHS to DVD. It's so wild. It was, it's nuts, man. I got to show it to you.
Dude, why did you guys not give that to Joe Polito to put on the YouTube channel?
I know, we should. And I think there's a little bit of footage out there somewhere on Facebook because I saw it recently. But it was at like Cresskill High School. It was with a band called Heft. I don't know if you remember.
I remember Heft. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can't. Rest Assured might have played, like a hardcore band from the Emerson area.
Yep.
So, yeah, that had to be, I would say, 95.
But okay, so when this happens though, you're skating again, you're getting into Fugazi, getting into the whole straight edge scene or just the punk rock scene in general, and these guys ask you, and you're kind of like, fuck yeah, like was there a feeling you had of, oh my god, I've been waiting for this and I didn't realize this was gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I started getting into punk rock and seeing how accessible and not easy how it is to like how the songs were, but just like, more simplified than like metal or Iron Maiden and stuff like that, you know? I think that's when I was like, shit, I really want to play music. I really want to play in a band and just do something, So when they asked me, I was totally stoked on it. And I skated with those guys. We were friends, you know what I mean? So it just meets. So, the first couple practices probably were a disaster. But it was a lot of fun. And then we did that show. It was at Cresskill High School, like in a cafeteria. I don't even remember. I remember like some guy there was like trying to shut it down. The cops came. It was a usual type of show setting back then. But, after that show, that's when I was definitely like, kind of like, okay, this is really rad. This is what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Did you guys have like a stage presence? Did you have energy, or were you kind of nervous when you got up there?
In the video, I can't remember. Like, honestly, I was like, at some point I was like in the crowd, I think like circle. Like there was a good amount of kids there. It had to be like 50, 60 kids there in a lunchroom. And there was like, in the video, it's amazing. One kid has like a red mohawk, and I think his name was Mike. And then my good friend Yanni, which was I graduated with, he was like a skinhead kid. So it was the typical like punk rock little pit, you know what I mean? Like skinhead kid, skater kid. So it was just so badass, and that's what really got me hooked, I think, playing, and I was just singing at this point. I wasn't playing bass or guitar or anything.
I was so confused. I always heard a Sticker, and I just posted recently in the North Jersey punk rock scene, or punk Facebook group, and this is literally was on June 9th, and I'd always heard a Sticker, and for some reason on the NJPP archives, and I just clicked on it and listened, and I'm like, this is really fucking good. And I felt, you could hear it's a demo, but there was something there that stood out to me as a young band that they got it that fast.
Yeah, we were young, man. We had to be like 17.
It was impressive.
Yeah, and I think that what's up there is a 3-song type of demo, and I think this is now when I was playing bass and singing in the band.
Okay.
Because when I was just singing, I think it was like that for about maybe, maybe 6 months or so, and then what happened is, I don't remember technically, but the bass player started the band, but I think like he left or we kicked him out. I don't know. We actually like maybe kicked out the actual member that started the band, which is ridiculous.
Was that Craig?
It was Craig. He might have left because he started a band called Example 24 after Sticker.
So he was part of the. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, he's so responsible for so much for me personally. He got me into so much, and he did all those backyard gigs. I don't know if you remember hearing about those back in the day, but this has to be like 94, 95. He used to have like literally like crazy shows in his backyard of like 6 bands.
Wow.
In the summer, and they were like off the hook, like no shit. Like Casualties played one, like it was nuts.
That's like crazy.
Like hundreds, like at least I think one of the last ones was like 200 people. It was like crazy. I was like, how the hell is this happening in Milford? You know what I mean? Like, so, and he did a lot for the scene. Like, he was very, like, he was the guy, man. Like,
Yeah.
So like, he basically left or we kicked him out. Something happened. And then I started playing bass and singing in the band.
Okay.
We did that for a while.
Did you guys, so when you started it around 16, 17, and then, and I know obviously you guys broke up, or the band disbanded, or you left because you went to do, we'll talk about it next, Highstrung.
Yeah.
But what was the inner, because I think a lot of people listening to this episode are really going to want to know a lot more about Sticker, so we maybe hold on to this for a moment, or like a minute.
Yeah, totally, that's fine.
What was the dynamic like with you guys?
Probably very dysfunctional. I mean, we were so young, so at that age, it's like we had a tight knit, so I think everybody kind of respected each other, but I think personally I kind of wanted, like, when I came into the band, I was singing other people's songs, and then I wanted to start writing my own songs, and that's why I started playing bass, and I was like, hey, I got a couple songs, and I started writing a couple songs, playing bass and singing, and that lasted for a while too, like probably like 6 months. This has got to be probably like junior year of high school.
Okay.
And then I was like, literally, I was like sick of bass. I was like, I hate bass. I'm done with bass. I can't write songs with bass. It's like, I need to learn guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I gave my bass to, I sold my bass to John from Bigwig.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, like before they went on tour. At one point, I was like, hey, he didn't pay me for a long time, though. And if John's listening, I still will never forget that. But I forgive him, and I love him.
You're like, but I really wanted that $75 for a really long time.
No, it was a nice bass, dude. It was like an Ernie Ball music band. It was a pricey bass.
Oh, was it? Oh, I do remember that bass. I think he played that for a really long time, right?
Yeah, he did. That son of a bitch.
What a dick.
But so I wanted to play guitar because it was just, to me, I thought, well, maybe it's going to be easier to write a song than with bass, which doesn't make sense because plenty of people can write songs with bass. It just wasn't for me, Yeah.
It's there's a lot more dynamic you can have with the guitar because you can play a certain chord that can just be a really big piece of the song, and you can't get that with you could get the bass if you can kind of get like creative with it, but you have a lot more possibilities with a guitar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I remember I saved up like half, maybe like $200, and my mom gave me like $200 to get an Epiphone SG.
Mm-hmm.
So I got an Epiphone SG, and then I started trying to figure out how the hell to play guitar. Did not take lessons at all. And I was like, what I learned from bass, I was like, that's got to be somewhat similar, but not, And the first thing I ever learned on guitar was a Face-to-Face record. I'll never forget it.
Which one?
Can't remember which one. It has to be one of the older ones.
Well, think of one song. I could definitely figure that out.
Might have been the Don't Turn Away album.
It's probably Disconnected.
Disconnected, yeah. So I think it was Disconnected.
Yeah.
But it was just, I was listening to a lot of that at the time, and it seemed, and I picked it up so fast. I remember like, holy shit, like these songs are easy, and they kind of were. Like, if you think about their songs back in the day, they were kind of like 4-chord progressions back and forth, but there was so much more to it than just that, obviously.
Well, it was the thing is that you can make, what we started doing was you called it like the monkey progression, just that T progression, right? That's it's the chorus of Damn It. It's the chorus of all major songs out there, because it's such, for some reason, it's this perfect chord structure that just lands with people. But then you have 3 or 4 chords, or 3 chords in a verse or 3 chords in a chorus or whatever. You could have 3 songs the entire song, but it's either, it came kind of like a puzzle of, wait a minute, but if I went from here to here to here, instead I went backwards, or I put this note in the middle, or I stayed on this note longer. Like, you could really play with it, but then it became the lyrics and the melody of the song. So it was all those put together that would make a song really work.
Yeah, it's pretty wild,
Yeah.
But,
Sorry.
So I did that for.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote, like you personally, the song, lyrics and everything?
Shit. I think it was a sticker song. It definitely was a sticker song. I think it was on our demo tape, and Jack, the drummer, drew it. It was called I can't remember the name. I'm horrible. But the song was called Mixed Up. Yeah, it was a song about my cat, I think, at one point, and in one of the verses it was something about a girl. Did not make sense at all. But didn't really have to. You know what I mean? Like, it was literally like that 4-chord progression type of thing, and I was like, holy shit, I just wrote a song. That's it.
What did you look for in a song to make it good, though? Did you think of, because there's always those pieces I was just talking about, did you like were you focusing on when you were done, because when you're writing a song, you beat yourself up, you're like, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit, and then there's something that clicks where you go, okay, I can show this to people now. And everyone has the rules. My rule is that the lyrics have to be really good, but the melody's got to be strong. So I have kind of like 2 pieces to it.
Yeah, I'm kind of that same. Like, it's weird. I go back and forth even till today. Like when I write, like, I think for me personally, if I had to choose one or the other, I would say the melody is definitely more important to me, and I think that's what I always grasped more onto back in the day, is the catchiness of a melody, and then I would like want to know, well, what are they saying? What are they talking about? I'd want to dive into it then. But lyrics, I would say, didn't matter to me as much, and still don't today, honestly.
Yeah. When people come up to you and they like your songs, do they ever say, wow, that one lyric you had, that one line you have is great, and you're kind of like, oh, I didn't really care about that too much?
Sometimes. I mean, like, I used to get like a lot of that stuff, like when I was on tour Near Miss, like I would get questions about lyrics and stuff, and I'd be like, oh shit. Like, I don't remember, like, they're definitely about something, but who knows what they're about at a certain time years ago, you know what I mean, that I was thinking or referencing to, or a metaphor, like a lot of the times I always write like in a metaphor way,
Yeah. I feel like a lot of your songs were I know I keep cutting off, but I'm so like interested to like dive deeper. I feel like a lot of your songs have this driving force of a community or togetherness or staying strong through something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely being younger, like when I was writing lyrics, it was so more straight to the point. Like, you could probably read them and be like, oh, I could relate to that. You know what I mean? Like, rather than now, I'm a little bit more not as specific when I write,
Yeah.
Because I stopped writing about girls and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure Jen is appreciative of that.
No, I mean, I've definitely written many parts about my relationship now and being married, but in a different way, you know what I mean? So like, we did that for a while. I played guitar for a while in Sticker, and we did a bunch of demo tapes. I think we did like 3, and the one that's up on that New Jersey site is we went into the studio planning to do a split with Bigwig, because I met those guys when literally that young. I've known them for that long. And we played a show with them, and we went into the studio with them, and we were going to do a split, but I don't think we ever did it. We just demoed 3 songs, and they did 3 songs, and Tom helped us like produce it and stuff, and that's what's up there. And that was like the last version of Sticker before we disbanded those 3 songs.
I thought that. Wait, let me go with that one, because that one's.
There's a song on there. I think one of the songs kind of like a ska punky song. All those guys sung backup on there. I think Tom actually played guitar on that one too. And then there's actually another song on there called Inspiration, maybe.
Yeah, it's Tie Risk.
Yeah.
And then Ridiculous Fights and Inspiration.
So Ridiculous Fights is okay. So that song, let me just talk about that really specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that one was actually written by Craig before, I was in the band, and it was probably one of the most like, I don't know, like crowd pleasing songs that we play. Everybody loved that song. Like it was just a really awesome, like hooky chorus and everybody singing along type of chorus. So we redid it. I'm pretty sure we definitely asked him if we could redo it. Because we loved it so much and we wanted to do it. And there was a lot of lyrical content that was always referencing, us to certain things in high school and stuff like that. So there was a connection there, but that was the last version of Sticker. I'm almost 100%.
What was the final breaking point where you guys disbanded?
Well, I think it was like right when, at this point, we were probably seniors in high school. And Jack actually played with Beefcake. I don't know if you remember Beefcake. Obviously, you remember Beefcake. So he played drums in Beefcake. Like this is years later. But he was a little bit older than us, so he already, pretty sure, graduated at that point, and we were seniors, and we were playing. We played a lot. Like for being a high school band, we were playing out like on the weekends pretty consistently. Which is weird. Like I can't believe we even did that. Jack had like a pickup truck, and he was the only one that drove at the time. So literally, we would throw shit in the back of his car, and we would go play random towns and VFWs and stuff like that. And that's when I met. At some point, I met the dudes from Highstrung that were in another band at the time. I can't remember. I'm horrible with names. Maybe Optimistic Red. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
I believe that was it. Yeah.
So I met those guys playing a show, and I was like, these kids, like, they can rip. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were rippers, like, back then. And they were even younger than I was, like, by, I think, like, 2 years or so. So yeah, I mean, like Sticker, basically, I wanted to do something else. We were graduating, and I think I was just getting to the point where I wanted to like challenge myself more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How good were you guitar at this point? Yeah.
And I think we were so obsessed with that record. And this is like before we even started. I think we were kind of listening to some Fat Wreck stuff too, like some NoFX stuff and Propaganda. But that Donuts and Glory record like blew my mind. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
I want to play stuff like this somehow,
Yeah.
And those kids just like ripped like Sam was an amazing guitar player. They were all good, and Pat was a ridiculous drummer. And I think they probably were, at this point, I was probably just 18, and they were, they had to be like 16 years old, because they were definitely 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so what was like the final goodbye where you were like, all right, Sticker's done. You guys, like, was there just kind of you guys were still in your bands, and you just had a random conversation with the guys with Sam and Pat, or Sam and John, because it was John played bass, right?
John played bass, Sam played guitar, Pat played drums.
Okay.
And yeah, they were just so good, man. Like I remember seeing them and be like, holy shit, these kids are insanely good. Like, so I met them, and then I don't remember if there was like a crazy sit down with Sticker or anything like that. Like, oh, we're breaking the band. You know, like I don't think it was anything to that extent. I think it was just everybody was graduating and everybody was doing other stuff, and you know, it was just that time, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
And it ended. You know. So I mean, it wasn't like we were like, hey, this person pissed me off. I don't want to do the band. We were all still friends for sure. So yeah, that's how I met those guys, and then Highstrung. I just started talking to them like, hey, you guys want to jam sometime? And I went up to. They lived in Oakland, like the Oakland area.
Yeah.
So I went up there and jammed with them like one or two times. I had some songs worked out already, and it just meshed so well. Like we as four people just randomly playing together, like it came together very quick. Very quick.
How quickly did you guys? I mean, you got to figure. You guys are both in bands. You know the whole. At that point, it's not confusing of what it's like to write a song. It's not confusing of having a first practice. It's not confusing of getting a show.
Exactly. It was a little bit easier at that point, I would say. You know what I mean? I kind of knew what was going on, and I was very into that record, like I was telling you, the Donuts and Glory record. So I was challenging myself and trying to play like crazy fast palm mute riffs with little melodies in them and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah. Because you guys, now, did you start playing shows and then have your demo? Because I felt you had your demo. Because my remembrance of this, or remembering this, is that you guys just came out of fucking nowhere. And you were just, it was just, everyone had your demo tape like that, because we all found it in the free record bins all around New Jersey.
That might be a bad thing.
No, it was like, it was a free, or it was just something about it, because there was an interview I just did with P-Lac. Did you hear the P-Lac interview?
I did. I enjoyed it very much.
He gives you guys the credit as like that demo tape changed his life to start liking punk rock. He says he found it in Flipside, which was in New Jersey. It was in Parker's gonna fucking kill me with this. Flipside Records in Pompton Lakes, and that was where we all, my friends and a lot of West Milford kids and the Wayne kids, we all would go there to find all of our music. And the Donuts and Glory thing is funny, because we found that record because the day I think Chris Barker, he went in there, and our buddy Steve Weir at the time, they went into that store, and I think they just found it. And Alan Rappaport, he was the main staple there, who taught all of us about a lot of these bands. Yeah. And he goes to Steve Weir, he goes, hey, what kind of bands do you like? He's like, oh, listen to this. He goes, oh, here, try this record. And he gave Steve Donuts and Glory, and Steve went apeshit over this record. And then that's how I heard it. And so I felt like that was a really long way of getting around to this, but that was a great center point for finding records. And I felt that, sorry, but I felt we found that demo there. It was either there or it was at the record store in Wayne on 23.
Okay. Well, I'm sure, like, I remember, like, when we did those demos, we gave them out to a lot of different places. So I'm sure, like, maybe one of us gave, like, a bunch of them there or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was the one with the dude on the motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually Sam's dad.
Yeah, I remember Sam telling me that at a show. He's like, oh, it's my dad. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I remember, like, we were like, oh, we need a cover. And he, like, brought, I think we were, like, we were in somebody's house, and I think one of us was like, that should be the cover. And like, that was literally the cover. It's like, because it was so badass. You know what I mean? The guy looked like sick. So
when you guys got together and had your first practice, though, did it just click?
It really did, dude. Like, I remember, like, because they were so tight, and I remember they had some songs worked out. I had some songs worked out. We all kind of just brought it to the table, and it just worked really well and came together quick, you know. And I think you're right. I think we probably recorded before we played a show, and I want to say we definitely recorded with John Anada. I'm almost positive our first stuff was there.
Okay.
So yeah, we played out a lot. I mean, I think, like, it's so crazy because when you think about it, through all these bands that we've all been in and played consistently, it's like this network is constantly like a chain. You know what I mean? Like, you meet all these people. That's literally how I met everybody. It's like from Sticker, I met these kids, and then from Highstrung, that's how I met the Humble guys. You know, it's so weird. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're in a community, whatever, of like-minded people, it's just going to connect you with people that are more connected with your vision, and that'll happen for a while, and either that'll sustain for a really long time, or that'll end up fading out, and then you find the next group of people, but it'll be within that space because that's where they are.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and yeah, I'm actually on the Highstrung Facebook page. If anyone wants to check out, go to facebook.com highstrungnj,
I
and
didn't
you,
even know what one.
yeah, I just looked it up, and it would just happen to be so. Optimistic Red is the name
Okay.
of the band, because there's March 29th featuring Sticker, Punk Ska, Optimistic Red, Punk, and Flavor, which was a reggae ska rap funk band or something. It was at the One Legion Place, Hawthorne. American Legion.
Yes. Yeah, I might have met them at that show actually.
That's wild, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. March 29th. Yeah. I wish we would have put years on these flyers.
I know. I see that all the time. Like, why didn't people put years?
Because we
So
never thought about it. We thought it was me forever.
Right.
Okay, so you guys put the demo tape. Now, was there because like I said, a lot of people found that demo tape through those bins. Now, was there a practice and you guys recorded it, you put it together, and you had it, either you had played shows or not, but you were like, hey, we should just, we should sell these, but let's put these everywhere in North Jersey so people find them.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely did a lot as far as putting them out there. I want to say, like, at that point, I guess we were recording those things ourselves, like, as far as, like, dubbing them onto cassettes.
Oh, yep.
I don't think we had any place doing them for us. I'm almost positive. Like, I wouldn't think,
That's how we did it.
That's how we did it, right? Like, how did we get, like, that's how we recorded demos. So we just would, put the master tape in the one side and just keep recording them. We must have made like 100 or more. We had to, I'm sure.
And then you guys, so you start playing. So you have this tape, you get people showing up. I felt that you guys got very popular very fast. Did you notice that yourself?
I think there was a little connection there quick. You know what I mean? I think it was just timing too. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the stuff always has to do with timing, but yeah, I mean, I think people liked it. I feel like at that point it was like we were definitely playing fast music, and I think that's when it was very kind of getting bigger then, with Humble, Bigwig Sound, like, it's like everybody was kind of playing fast in a way. Not very, like you guys were your own thing. I always thought that.
Did we play Lanemeyer or Congress of Cow when we first started?
Lanemeyer.
Was it? Okay.
No, it was definitely Congress. I definitely met you guys back in the Congress days for sure.
Okay.
Because I remember, like, and me and Chris just spoke about this when he played with that day at the fair, and we were talking about like some show at, I guess, his house. It was like on a deck. It was like by the water, and I remember it, but I don't remember like who I was playing with. We were trying to figure out, well, what band was I in? Because I don't really remember.
Wait, you played at that show?
I played at that show, and I said it had to be Highstrung. I'm almost positive it was Highstrung.
It was Highstrung.
It was, right?
Yeah, it was Highstrung, because that was the Vapids, Dillinger 4, you guys, Congress of Cow. I think that was like it was getting close to the end of that, but that was his parents' deck and like a pack on.
Exactly. It was like on the deck. Yep, I totally remember it.
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot you guys fucking played that show, because it got shut down as the Vapids were playing, so Dillinger 4 never even got a chance to play.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, they were really nice. I remember the drummer was just sitting downstairs talking to Chris's mom, petting their dog, and just having this conversation about like their dogs, because I think he had the same kind of dog or something. And I walked in the house and saw this. I'm like, what is this?
Funny too when you think about like all people's parents like that let them have like it's like what parents today would let their kids have a show in their backyard with a bunch of random people and strangers from different states. Like it's like insane.
Yeah,
it's so rad.
Well, it's funny too because since it was on the lake. And if anyone lives in Lake Apacon, his house was like 4 or 5 houses down from Mason Street Pub, and but the lake took the sound, so all these boats started pulling up kind of close to the dock, and we were up on a hill, but we started noticing all these boats were pulling up and docking and listening to the show. So it wasn't just like the backyard; it was we were playing into woods or anything. It was literally echoing across Lake Apacon and drawing all its attention. Great. Holy shit.
But that was cool. But yeah, we were just talking about that. And so, yeah, I mean, like, we played a lot. Highstrung I think we played a lot of shows, But
what was what was the goal with you guys, though? How far did you want to take it?
Well, I think at that point, like, for me, it's like I was definitely older than them, probably a couple years, like maybe even 3 years. And I think at that point, like, in my mind, like, music was everything. It still is to me today, but I mean, like, the drive was like that's what I want to do. I wanted to make a life out of it somehow, you know, being even that young. And I think those guys weren't at where I was, you know what I mean? Like, they were still young. They were still in high school. I was already out of high school. Like, and, you know, I think that's where the separation started, you know, where I was just like, well, I got to do something else. I got to do something more. I got to go somewhere else. You know, I want to go on tour, whatever it may be. And I think that's where it changed, you know.
Was there? How long were you in the band in Highstrung?
I'd say it had to be like a year or so, like at least because we recorded a couple things that I was on. I would say at least a year and a half or 2 years, maybe.
Okay.
But I'm not 100%. Maybe just a year, you know, like.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that. I didn't think it was that long.
Yeah, it wasn't that long. It might have been just like a year, but we did like that demo tape, and I think we did a couple other things that I was on. And I actually remember, like, there was a time when we were trying to figure out, like, let's do a little run, like a little small tour outside of Jersey, like a very small thing, like maybe like a 4-day thing or something. And I remember, like, being in the living room of the drummer, Pat, like, and I think his parents were like, no way in hell that's happening. He's not going, like, type of thing. And I was like, oh, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's where I started just being like, you know, they're younger than me, and I get it, you know, I totally got it. So I think that's where I started just not being interested as much, you know.
Yeah, that wasn't hard too, because Pat, I remember he was a really good drummer.
Oh, dude, amazing, and he still plays. He's like he plays jazz now, and he's amazing. Great guy.
Yeah, he would. I remember he would always be at shows when you guys weren't. I remember that was another good part of marketing. It wasn't, you know, we'd call it networking now, but he just loved showing up shows, and he would always be there just representing you guys. And he was like, I've always thought he was a good staple of seeing you guys like representing Highstrung around all the shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you ever talk to those guys still?
It's funny because, like, they just commented on something about the show that we're doing on Saturday. You know, like, oh, like somebody tagged Pat, and then one of them tagged Sam and John, and we're like, are you guys going to this? Like, and then I was like, oh my God, it'd be great to see you guys. And I said, wait, is this a Highstrung thread right now? Like, you know, like a question mark. But yeah, like I've talked to Pat like here and there through the years, because I've wanted to see him play for so long, but I just haven't had a chance, like, every time he's playing. But he plays out a lot, like in the city, Jersey City. He does a lot of stuff. He's a jazz musician type of thing, and he always was studying jazz back then too. That's why his chops are so retardedly good.
I do remember that. I do remember he was a big, like, jazz drummer, but he liked punk rock, or that was just what he got. He just was like, well, this is working, but I do want to play jazz instead. Yeah.
So, you know, I've talked to him here and there. I haven't talked to the other guys that much at all. But who knows, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think there'll ever be a Highstrung reunion. I don't think that's possible.
Hey, man, trust me. There's apparently after the OCG interview, I think I don't, you know, anyone of those guys are probably listening. They're probably gonna be like, that's bullshit. But I did hear that a couple of them just started talking to each other again.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, look, I think it's a great thing to. It's hard when you think about it. When we did it 10 years ago, I don't know if we had planned it out. You know what I mean? On our own, but I feel like it's harder for one of us to maybe be like, hey, let's get a reunion together. You know what I mean? Like with the Bergenfield girls, like how they like reached out to us, they kind of orchestrated the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like they kind of put it into motion. I think we all kind of needed that too. You know, like everybody has lives when it's like nonstop working, this, that, school, whatever.
Well, I mean, it also came down to there was a set date that this Saturday was very specific, and it was. Yeah, and I remember a couple people were like, you know, maybe you guys should do it in September, December. I said, look, like, there's a specific reason we're doing it on this date, and I also think that it's perfect because it's such a rush, you know, 3 months, quote unquote rush. But I think if you just lock something down, you know, a lot of people put things off. Oh, you know, like a year from now, 6 months from now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then they don't get it, but it's like, oh, 3 months from now, like, shit, we really got to get our stuff together, and it's like, boom, we like totally got it together.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did it end? Like, you know, because now we can.
So I mean, I remember, you know, talking to them and being pretty straightforward and just saying like, listen, like I'm at a different point, and it was a very kind of simple conversation. It wasn't any bad blood or anything like that. And I was like, I hope you guys continue and play, and because you guys are great and whatnot. And that's when they Jeremy Komitas came in and started playing with them, so, and they played for a while, and it was just one of those things that, like, I was older and I wanted to do other stuff and do more stuff and tour and keep it going,
Yeah, it was funny when Jeremy got in the band. I remember going to see them play, and I'm looking at them like, wait a minute, what happened? Did Jeremy like shrink and go and just like go back in age?
There was some confusion there.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's so fun.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It's wild because then, Jeremy and I played in the Balance Between together. Like, that's how Balance Between started. Like, we could wait to get to that. We could touch on that briefly, but
I didn't know that.
it was weird that we wound up playing in a band together after the fact for so many years. But yeah, he came in, and I think they must have played a good 2 years or so with him, and they recorded a lot of good stuff. It was always like progressive punk rock to me. You know what I mean? Like it was like really intricate riffs and like cool melodies and crazy drumming. Like they were great.
This is funny because this is like the first interview I think I've done where I'm talking to someone, because usually the people I talk to, they talk about the last band they were in breaking up, but because you kept starting new bands and going into other bands, where it's just a funny story. Like Highstrung kept playing, and it's the first time I think I've ever heard that in an interview I've done, where you're like, I was just the piece that left, and they kept going on. And
yeah, well, I mean, all the bands that whether I kind of started them or joined them or whatnot and left, like there was never really that much bad blood, maybe here and there, but it's just, a lot of the times it's like I just wanted to do something else, you know what I mean? And maybe I was kind of a dick in a way for wanting that and being selfish, but I just had a goal, you know what I mean? Like that's all it really was,
Well, this is kind of a good transition too, because you went to Humble Beginnings. Yeah. Anyone listening, we always call them Humble, but it's Humble Beginnings. And at that point, it was Delvecchio, Josh, and Gabe. So leading into that, though, and I'm trying to remember that time period, because when we first started this whole interview starts, and we literally talked about how 20 years ago, it's right at the point where Humble put out their first EP, and we put out our first EP. That's when we all, like Lane Meyer and Humble, I felt we would always really be playing shows together, and it wasn't just that, we'd also be hanging out together all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
We'd be at Sean's house, and it was like really just Sean's house was the center point. It was like the epicenter.
It really was.
Yeah, because Josh and Heiner lived there. I think this summer. Sean's literally across from me. Was that this summer, dude? Sean, this summer, 20 years ago? Was this when? Was it 98 when Heiner and Josh lived with you for like a month? Yes. Yeah, so Sean's confirming it. I'm right. But that was so that time, that's when we all started playing together. But you and Josh just went, I feel like you guys met each other and just clicked as friends right away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I met them obviously playing through Highstrung and playing shows. And yeah, I mean, I was always, even through like the years of like when like the year or so that I was in Highstrung, like I loved Humble, like I really did. Like I was a fan, you know what I mean? Like there was something about the vibe of them as a 3-piece, and like, they just like played really awesome punk rock, like in a different way though, because Josh's melodies and his touch on it was just different. It was like really like smart in a way. Even revisiting songs, like I just had this conversation the other day. I was like, dude, songs that I wrote are like simple and the songs that you wrote, I'm like, how the hell did you write these progressions? Like when you were like 17, 18 years, what the hell were you thinking? And he's just like, I don't know. It's retarded.
He gave a very Josh answer. I don't know.
But no, it's like, I met them and yeah, we definitely clicked really quick, and I kind of think at that point I was kind of bandless, like for a little bit,
But were you, so you were without a band between Highstrung and Humble, or I thought you went right into Humble?
I think there was talk about it towards the end, like, I remember talking to Gabe about it, and they were kind of thinking about adding the second guitar and stuff, and I think there was probably a conversation where I was like, yeah, like I'm probably going to leave Highstrung or whatever it may be. And it was probably like a seamless transition into them. Yeah.
I feel like that would have been one of those moments where I always thought Josh would have been the catalyst of you going in that band, which I'm sure he was a big piece of it. But I feel that at that point, Gabe's wheels started turning and he was like, oh, we really need to get that guy. 'Cause we all thought you were a good guitar player too, and it was like it made sense from a distance before you even joined.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to remember who exactly like asked me to actually be in the band. I don't really remember. But I think kind of Gabe was the one to orchestrate it and bring me in, you know?
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. But yeah, I clicked with Josh so much back then, and with all of them, Chris too. Like I love those guys. Literally love those guys.
There was this big piece when you joined, because Humble as a three-piece, a three-piece band. I'm not a big fan of three-piece bands sound unless they record, right? It's really hard, especially when the lead singer is playing guitar or the lead singer is playing bass. It's hard to fill out that space on guitar.
Yeah.
And I always feel like a second guitar player is really necessary to make that sound bigger. And I felt when Humble started, the songs were great and they were fun, but when you came in, from my eyes, there was this big dynamic that would be kind of grew out of that.
Yeah.
And I remember when you joined, I think I felt like, oh shit, these guys are really they were just I felt like you just looked bigger as a band and sounded bigger as a band. And I'm like, oh man, that was it. That was the missing piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think it came together quick too. Like there was definitely some songs of the older songs that we touched on, like when I remember joining. But I think they were also at the point that they wanted to kind of move on to a different, more mature sound too.
Yeah.
And I think like literally when I got in the band, like they were already writing, the EP, and like there was some songs from the past that were on the EP or whatever. But they were trying to like change some stuff around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, that came together quick. I remember like being in the band. I think like we recorded that EP pretty damn quick after me being in the band.
Well, I just remember that because you guys would always go to Nada, and you were basically the ones to introduce them to Nada, right?
Maybe. I don't know if I don't know if they went to Nada before me. They might have. I'm not sure.
But that was always the studio they went to.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of answers the question, I guess, that they always went there before you. But I just remember leading up to that summer, you guys would always say, "Oh yeah, we're going to Nada, and we're like, "Oh, that's cool." They're like, "Yeah, we're really recording, or we're really taking a lot of time with this." Like, "Oh, that's awesome." And all of a sudden, I had the CD in my hand because it came out way before we had our record. I think we were recording ours as yours came out, and I got it in my hand, and it was just, holy shit! It's like has real artwork, and it's on a label, and I put it in, and it starts with 334. And I never heard that song. Like, you guys never played it live, I felt.
Yeah.
And
I think that song. I think I brought that song into the band like very quickly of me being into the band. Honestly.
Was that a song that you wrote prior to joining Humble? Like you just had it?
Yeah, I think I did have a lot of it. Like at least the verses and choruses, and I think like the outro, the part with the bass. I think that was all Gabe. But yeah, I mean like. The basis skeleton of it, I think I had it a little bit beforehand, It might have been like a high-strung song. I don't even remember, but it was definitely, but it was more simplistic than like a high-strung song. Like I remember like when I was writing, I was like, oh, it's too simple. Like it's not riffy enough. It's not crazy enough, but I liked it, I was like, what the hell? And I remember like literally like the title, like I remember sitting in my room and it was like 3:30 in the morning. I looked at the clock and it was 3:34, and that's how the name came. Like it was that stupid.
I thought that Justin, your buddy Justin, who would go to shows with you, because he was I thought the two of you guys were wherever you were, he was.
Yeah, we grew up together.
Heiner told me the story that you guys were in the studio and you were going, "Hey, we need a name for the song," and Justin looked at the clock and said that. I had that wrong.
It might have been that. It might have been there. We might have been at my apartment, at our apartment that we shared. I don't remember, man. Like it's so fucking long ago,
I know. I remember all this stuff like it's like yesterday, even though
it was definitely a reference to the time though, and the clock. It didn't mean anything beyond the time at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like literally, that's it.
Yeah, I think if people could probably look into it and really write something. It's like everything's coming down on me. It's like here I am in my life. It's 3:34 and.
Yeah.
Even that time doesn't make sense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because you and then you guys toured. Did you tour with them?
Yeah.
Actually, no. Let me go back just go back. What was your first show with Humble?
Come on, man. I don't remember this shit.
You have to.
Let's see.
This is my show, and you'll answer my questions.
I don't really remember. I mean, it had to be some sort of VFW show, honestly. It had to be. The majority of the shows were always at Hall. So, I mean, it had to be something like that. I don't. Maybe Bootin', maybe a Bootin' show. I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys. So, wait, no. When was it? It was. Fuck, because I remember the show. I got the CD. So okay, you joined, and that's just fast forwarding back to where I was. But I remember getting the CD, and I just blasted through it. And I think I got it at Sean's house. I don't know. I fucking forget where I got it. But I was driving up 208 listening to it and cranking it, just going, oh my God. And it's only 6 songs, and I just started it again. And I'm like, I can't believe this just came out of these guys. And, I loved Faith 98, which I've hit so many times. I might lose my shit on Saturday when you guys play it. If you guys better fucking play it. And you better fucking play that song.
Maybe. We shall see.
Okay. But I remember we played a show with you guys in Rockaway at Allegiant Hall. And I was dating this girl, Emily, at the time, who I wrote every single Lane Meyer song about. And we get in the parking lot, and we're walking up to the show. And I heard you guys were on, and I, ran inside. Because I think I heard you were playing Faith 98. And I, sprint, I'm walking with her. I go, I'll see you inside, and I sprinted into the fucking place and went nuts. And everyone around me, no, I don't think anyone even had the CD, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And I'm singing. Yeah, so how does he know the fucking lyrics? But yeah, I mean, I just remember that. It's for me, just going back to that time of what it was like, and remembering how fucking hot it was, and we all had our shitty ass cars, and we're playing these hot fucking Legion halls, and just that CD coming out was past being a demo tape.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely better for, a lot of that had to do with John too. You know what I mean? John is always so hands-on with so much of stuff as far as playing wise and vocals, and obviously he was in a great band and he was a great singer. It makes sense. That's why I always loved John, and that's why I still work with him today. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It was more than a demo quality. You know what I mean? It had that sound, record sound, whatever you want to call it, more produced sound, bigger sounds.
Was 334 the only one of your songs on that record?
I guess technically speaking, yeah, I would say so. As far as
the one you sang.
Oh, sang wise, yeah. I mean, I sung backups on the other stuff on the EP, but as far as my own parts, yeah, 334.
Were there any other songs that you had brought to the table and then Josh sang?
I don't believe so on the EP, no. I think it was just 334, and I think the other ones, the majority of those ones they had maybe worked out prior, besides, I think maybe Faith 98 was one of the newer ones, and maybe Sleep It Off I'm not sure if that was around before I joined. I don't think it was, but it might have been.
I felt like Sleep It Off and Activate and Laughing with Your Friends. Wait, Laughing with Your Friends, wasn't that Activate? I always fuck that one up.
Laughing was definitely, I think, around before I was in the band, and so was After All. I'd say 2 or 3 of them were around before I joined. So, but definitely Faith 98 was when I was in the band that we were writing that one for sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not 100%, but I think so.
Where did you guys always practice? Was it always at DeVecchio's sweet basement?
Yeah. Sweet basement, man. And it's so crazy to talk about the basement in general for a minute. We where we're rehearsing for the show on Saturday, it's his basement again, but in his house that he owns up in Habakon. And it's he has it, he has certain things from the basement in Hackettstown, certain, he has this weird swing thing that he had at his parents' house. And he had it down there, and he was like, you guys remember this? And we were like, holy shit. Yeah, we definitely do. So, yeah, back in Chris's basement, but now his own home.
Oh, my God. That was, the place to go, because that's where we would all go party.
It was.
And play shows. There was in the Boxcar interview, I talked about how you guys, and them, we all met.
We played a show there, right?
Yeah, we were supposed to play a show at some Legion Hall that was upstairs, this small-ass place. And it got, for some reason, it got canceled, or it got screwed up. So we all drove about an hour or so to Hackettstown and then went, and Chris was like, everyone get in your vans, we're going to my house and playing. I think that was the first time I had been there, because we show up, and his parents had this giant house in Panther Valley.
Nice house too.
Yeah, and it was in Panther Valley, which is funny because my mom ended up moving Panther Valley like years after that, because I remember every time I would go in through the gate, because he'd have to give everyone's name at the gate.
Yeah, that's right. Holy shit.
Yeah, so that was the funny thing, because we had this train of cars, like 15 cars or something like that, and each of us had to stop, and Chris had to go up first. He's like, yeah, I have to just let the guy know that all of these cars are going to my house right now.
Yeah.
But that's totally. Yeah. So we played that show there, but that was a staple. I mean, that was where you guys would always practice. We'd always have parties there when his parents were gone, and but yeah, I think that was like almost. It was one of those places where it was just as big as you're talking about Craig when he had like the backyard shows back in the day.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty big.
Yeah. So that summer, you guys have recorded Overanalyzing the Manifestations of the Unconscious. Granted,
is that what it's called?
I'm reading this because there's no way I ever fucking remember that, and I had to literally pull it up on the I Surrender Records website, where anyone can find your EP to download and buy, by the way.
Remastered.
And remastered, yep. And who remastered again? Because, I forget. You guys recorded this at Nada.
Yep.
And now this time, and then again, and you and I talked about this, obviously, but Alan, how do you say his last name? Duchess?
Alan Dutchess, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%, but I think it's something like that. He did a lot of albums back in the day. Probably still does.
How did you guys get him to master this?
I want to think that was all an Eyeball thing. I think that was Alex Eyeball had a connection with him, and I think that's how that happened.
Okay. How'd you guys meet Alex anyway? Because Eyeball was one of those record labels that I would think he was just starting out back then, right?
Yeah. I think the Alex connection was even before I was in the band. I think it was Gabe and Alex were friends, possibly. I think so, But Alex is a great dude.
Yeah, I don't think I ever met him.
Really?
I'd always heard him. I heard someone. I think Heiner one time was like, "Yeah, it's like this big jacked dude named Alex," and I always heard about that, but I don't think I ever saw him or actually just said hello face to face at any shows. Good times. So you put that out, and then you guys went on tour soon after, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we did. We recorded that. It was done. And I think it came out pretty soon after that too. I want to remember. I remember like when we got the masters back, like specifically, Alex had the masters, and we all met. I think it was in New Milford. I don't know why we were in New Milford, but we met like in a 7-Eleven parking lot, and I think it was Josh, Gabe, and myself, and we were hearing it like fully mastered and mixed, but for the first time. And I just remember cranking it and be like, "Holy shit, this sounds awesome!"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Badass. I was stoked. This is before obviously click tracks and auto-tune and anything remotely fixing music. You know what I mean?
It was before auto-tune?
Definitely was before auto-tune. And if there was auto-tune, I believe John definitely didn't have it then,
Yeah, that's right, because I think once auto-tune came around, everyone started sounding like Cher.
Somewhat, yes.
The wavy crap that was happening. How many tours did you guys do with Gabe?
I guess it was probably just that one. I would say, that one with you guys.
No, we
right?
didn't. No, Gabe wasn't in the band. That's when Rob was playing bass.
Oh, that's right. So, I think it was pretty short. You know what I mean? I don't think that was a very long tour, Gabe. Maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
If that, right? I mean, I would assume, but I think we went down to Florida, maybe.
Yeah, you guys came back, and you had just put the CD out, and there was a show at the Boot and Elks Lodge, or Boot Knights of Columbus, and we showed up. I think we were still in Jersey, and we hadn't toured yet. You guys got back, and anytime I always saw a band get back off the road, you can just see it in them that they were on the road. There was just a bit of a tiredness, but there was just this different element about them, and I walked in, I saw you guys, I'm like, oh my god, they just had this different thing about them. But I remember it was very clear that there was like a wedge between the three of you and Gabe. It was like super clear. Is that
at that point I think it was like really towards the end of him leaving and stuff,
Yeah. It was like that tour was. It sounded like that tour was kind of the catalyst, or was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Of you guys were all in agreement of, yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, probably. You know, obviously I don't remember the exact feeling, but I definitely remember it being, you know, something towards the end with him after that little.
So you guys ended up getting Heiner. Was Heiner the first person? No, you guys went through a little bit of a bass player character.
Yeah, I think, you know, after Gabe, and you know, when Gabe left, it was like it just made sense at that point. You know, he wanted to be more of it seemed like he wanted to be more of like I guess a front man in some degree, you know what I mean? And it made sense. Like that's just how it was, you know. It wasn't any, I don't think there was any like fuck yous or anything like that when he left. It was just like, okay, this is what seems like what's going to happen, and that's it.
Yeah.
But then Eben played, I guess, after Gabe. I would have to say Eben played after Gabe.
How'd you guys find Eben?
I guess we found Eben when we were playing in Long Island a few times when he was in Yearly, that band Yearly, which was an awesome band. And I guess we met him then, and I want to say Josh probably reached out to him afterwards when Gabe left and was just like, hey, I think we had shows lined up, and I guess that's how he got in, and I don't think it was ever like planned out to be a permanent thing with Eben. I think it was like, hey, will you come help us out, play some shows and see what happens? And then that lasted pretty long though, because I mean, he recorded with us, and you know, we played that, like, has to be at this point, I would say maybe 99, 99. And we played that like Warped Tour. It was like the first Ernie Ball.
Oh yeah, like, the Ernie Ball stage competition thing. You know what I mean? It was something like that. And we got far. Like we wind up, I guess we got to the finals. They flew us out to LA. And then Eben came with us on that. And we played, and I think there was judges, obviously. I mean, it was very weird. The whole process for like a band being like, how old we were, 20 years old or something, 21 years old, right? It's like, I remember like the first like competition, like playing in front of judges, and I was like, okay, this is definitely weird. You know, it was somewhere in Jersey. I think the first like 2 competitions were in Jersey, and then we made it, and then we had to go play in Boston or something like that. Then it was like a final, then we played in LA. And I mean, it was really cool because it's like, oh, we're on a plane, we're going to California to play, you know, this like showcase show. And it was out of I want to say it was at like a what are those like rock and roll restaurants? What the hell? Oh, Hard Rock Cafe.
Hard Rock Cafe, yeah. So it was at like one of those in LA. And
wait, is it the one on Sunset Boulevard?
It might have been. It might have been.
That's
you
crazy.
know, and it was like, we were like stoked on it, obviously, because it was just fun, and they had like hotel rooms for us and everything, and it was like we were like little rock stars for a hot minute. We had to use like all Ernie Ball stuff, guitars, everything. I remember that, and I was like, shit, that sucks. I don't like Ernie Ball, but like I was like, whatever, I'll play it. Yeah, so I think the judges there were like, I want to say it was like one of the guys from 311, maybe. It was like somebody from a popular band, and it was like one guy from Ernie Ball. And the bands we were playing against were definitely like, they were not in that punk rock like genre. It was like one was like kind of like a butt rock thing, I remember, and the other was like kind of like that new metal, whatever you want to call it, sound.
Yeah.
At the time, and I think we came like second runner up, but we won like, we definitely won some money out of it. I think, I don't remember exact, but I think we came like, we were the runner up, but it was a really cool experience. You know, that was fun. You know, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. In Josh's interview, he was like, man, if we had the internet back then, we would have been going ape shit.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's wild when you think about how we used to tour. I was talking to somebody about this not too long ago. It's like, we used to tour with maps, you know, like we literally had paper maps. It's like, I don't understand how we even like did that, you know?
Yeah. That was crazy. 'Cause I mean, you'd be on a highway and you said, okay, well, we're going east or west or whatever, north or south. And you said, okay, we go this way. But it was the craziest thing was, holy shit, I got to take a piss, or we got to stop and get food. And it was, well, how do we know?
Yeah.
Like, how do we know where the nearest gas station is?
I remember like in when I was playing with Near Miss, like we were on tour a lot, and there was a point where Max, we would play the same places like over and over. That there was a point where Max remembered how to get to certain places, and we didn't even use the map. And I used to be like, "You're crazy! Like, how the hell do you know where we're going right now?" And you'd be like, "Oh, it's this highway to that road." And I'm like, "What the hell?"
You're like, this isn't even your country.
yeah, exactly.
Wait, real quick, what do you
Yeah.
remember what songs you played for the Ernie Ball contest? Like in the front of the judges?
I think it was like a short type of set. I think it was like a 6-7 song set. It was definitely probably a couple songs from the EP, and then a couple songs that we had written with Evan. And I mean, back to the Evan thing, like Evan was a great dude and an amazing, like insane bass player. Like I remember when he recorded what EP was that? The bracket split that we did. It's like he really didn't know the songs very well. Like he knew the structures very like not much, and came to the studio and was just banged out these bass lines that we were all like, you know, they might have seemed like maybe like if you listen now, like maybe it's like, okay, that could have been watered down a little bit, but regardless, for what they are, they're amazing. You know what I mean? And it really brought the songs to different, you know, elements in different ways. You know?
Isn't it true that when he played the shows in the beginning, he didn't even know them? He just showed up and just kind of figured them out on the spot.
Yeah, kind of, man. He was just one of those crazy, like he knew what the hell to do. You know what I mean? He just knew his instrument like the back of his hand. You know?
Yeah, I always thought that was when there was the first time I saw him play with you guys. Because I'd heard about him, and I remember showing up in this giant bass that was literally underneath his throat. He had it pulled up so high.
Yeah.
Because he know, he was a very good bass player, and that's like how you can have complete control.
Yeah, like he was a real musician. Otherwise, you know, we were not really real musicians. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, was that intimidating to you guys?
I mean, not so much. I always like the one thing always playing with people like over the years, like I love playing with people that are better than me. That's always what makes you a better player. You know what I mean? It's like when I was in Highstrung, same thing. It's like those kids can play. Like they pushed me to write different stuff and whatnot, you know? So Evan was like one of those dudes. And I remember like when we were coming back from that whole California thing, I was sitting next to him on the plane, and I remember him talking. We were just bullshitting, and he was like, "Oh, you know, I think he got the offer to be in Saves the Day while we were out there, or it was like very around then." And he was like, "Oh, I got this offer to like play with Saves the Day," and I was like, "Dude, you got to do that. Like, like, you know, obviously, like, you have to do it, you know." And I mean, look what he did to that band. You know, like he made those couple albums, like, in my opinion, you know.
Yeah, going from that first record where it was sounded a lot like, you know, just basically sounded like Lifetime, and then that second record is where they completely found out who they were, and that's when he got in the band. I mean, the first Saves the Day, all those guys, I don't even, except for the guitar player maybe, I thought, like all of them were gone. It was just Chris, and he reformed with all of these 4 other guys, and Evan just being a part of that. And I remember hearing Through Being Cool and seeing the record cover where they're all sitting on the couch, and it was this weird kind of quirky thing. Yeah. And I was like, what is this? And then the first song kicked in. I was like, oh no, this is going to be so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was definitely more of the Stay What You Are like fan.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
I think it's my favorite record they ever did. I mean, I like their stuff now too. Like they just write cool songs, you know?
Yeah. It's different. His voice like went through these weird progressions all the time. And I loved Reverie when it came out as much as everyone hated that and it shifted. But I hated, we're not going to talk about Saves the Day the whole time, but I hated the Alarm because I thought it was just so forced. And he was like, I'm aggressive now. And I was like, it's not working for me. But then after that, Under the Boards.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it was good shit. But yeah, I mean, you guys recorded the Bracket split. How'd you guys get Bracket? So you were talking about the CD you did with Eben, which ended up being called Age and Experience versus Youth and Cunning.
Yes.
And you guys did that with Bracket, who was a big Fat Records band. And I thought
Josh loved that band.
I remember that. That was one of his favorite bands, and you guys ended up getting in this split with them. How did that come about?
I don't know, man. I think that was because what label put that out? I want to say that was that's Andrew, right?
Yeah, Chutney.
Yeah, so I think he kind of, there was a connection there that he knew somebody that knew somebody maybe. I don't really remember exactly how that went down, but they were a great band. Josh got me into that band. They were really cool, you know.
Yeah, it says on here. Yeah, it says that it was the Bracket songs were taken from an unreleased Like You Know. So it sounded like they had a record and it sounded like they had it recorded and then they were like,
Yeah,
hey.
yeah. I don't think they like specifically like did those songs for a split with us. Like, I don't think they even knew who the hell we were. Maybe who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no clue.
Yeah.
But we were like, yeah, that's awesome. Let's do that. You know. I wish I had it. I wish I had that CD. It sucks.
I think it's on the NJPP archives actually.
No, I mean like the actual physical.
Oh,
copy.
the physical CD. Yeah.
Yeah, I had it.
Yeah, I lucked out because Sean, I think he had a lot of Lane Meyer stuff, and so I have a box at my mom's house that has the EP. A couple of them are like unwrapped.
Oh, that's funny because Sean told me that he sold everything on eBay for like hundreds of dollars.
I think didn't he do that? There was some kid on there there's I think it's like $600 or stories is going online for $600 or something stupid, $1,300. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I mean, that's really cool. Like,
that's way too cheap.
You know. Yeah, I literally don't own anything. Like how I've been rehearsing to all these songs is like literally going on YouTube and playing them from there. Like I have nothing. Like I'm horrible.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you think you can go in the archive, and I think it is there.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's where I've been going.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, like I have nothing as far as now the EP being remastered. That's the only thing I have on iTunes. But everything else, like I'm just streaming. You know.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of us, and none of us saved like any stuff. I wish I had shirts and things from back in the day.
I have one Humble Beginnings bumper sticker, and like an old school one. It had like. I think it had like blue and black. It's like a long bumper sticker. I think I got it before I was even in the band. And I have that. So I'm waiting. Maybe I'll wait another 10 years and I'll sell that for like $3,000 on eBay.
Just do it at the show. You might you have a
yeah. There you go. Auction. I'm gonna auction that off. So everybody's listening. I'm auctioning a sticker off.
So Eben leaves. You guys get Heiner, and this was around the time when we split with Sean, and then we had spent a couple months, and Chris figured out that booking shows sucked and booking a tour sucked. So we were like, oh, let's do this final tour. We'll get Sean to come back and play. And then Heiner, he did double duty where he played guitar for us, and then he played bass for you guys every single night for like 3 weeks.
That's right. What a sport. Robert J.
Yeah, Robert J. pulling it up, bringing it in, bringing it on, whatever that phrase is. Yeah, that tour was awesome, dude, because we were so excited. Because basically during that time, our two bands were definitely super tight, and there was like this friendly competition with songwriting because between Chris and Josh, that was over there, and then that would make me want to write songs, and like when Josh liked my songs, I was like, oh my god, Josh likes one of my songs, this is crazy. And then we went on that tour, and that tour was fucking awesome. And
that was fun.
I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't really want to say. I mean, nothing like really crazy happened, but it was definitely a lot of just random stupid antics that were going on all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was many hotel rooms that we probably were somewhat naked all together, which is crazy. I might have initiated that, but
yeah.
Look, what do you get? Like, we're 20-something-year-olds, like, in different states, like, randomly playing music. Like, what else are we going to do?
My favorite thing was the last day of tour. We were in Virginia Beach, and this is in, God, this was in the summer, too. And I don't know how we got this hotel room because it was on the beach, and it was just empty.
Yes. I totally remember that, man.
Yeah.
I totally remember that.
And Del Vecchio was a huge fucking pot smoker back in the day. And
he was?
Yeah, slightly. And I remember we got the room, and it was on the 4th floor, and it was 420, and I have this picture of Chris making like a joint reference in front of his mouth, and he's pointing to 420. And like the rest of the hotel was like empty. And this is like one of those really tall ass hotels. And I was like, man, that's so convenient, or that's such a coincidence that we got the 420 room. And then they were like, no, Del Vecchio like literally asked the guy for that.
That's
and
great.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, that wasn't a fucking red flag for the guy.
It was. I remember getting to that place too, that hotel, like early. Like we arrived super early. I feel like just all like strung out looking.
Where did we left? Because that took us. God, I'm trying to remember the route for that. It's like we went.
I guess it was Florida, right? Just down the coast.
Yeah, we went the coast down to Florida, or I think we, and then we went. We went out to I think like Louisville, because that's where we played shows with OTG.
crazy.
Yeah, we went out to Louisville. We played it there in Ohio, I think, because we had a fan base out there. Then we went to places. We played the Fireside, I thought.
Yeah, we played the Fireside. You're totally right. We went to Chicago. We went to North Carolina, South Carolina, because I remember there's pictures of
Oh my
like
God.
us at south of the border.
Yeah.
And I know I have like a huge sombrero on in one of them. I think I had blue hair at the time. I definitely have a picture somewhere, and Josh was like, "Put all of this on right now." I was like, "Okay."
No, Joe, I have what is it, 4 or 5 rolls of film for from that entire tour.
Oh man, you gotta bust that out.
Yeah, there's a couple of them are actually scanned. If people are looking, if you go, I made a Lane Meyer Facebook page years ago, but it's a personal page and it's named Lane, first name and then last name Meyer.
Okay.
And, which was funny because when Hit put out both of our records, he's like, dude, you got to make that into like a business page. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I was like, I'm just gonna keep this because that's been there forever. But there's pictures on there. There's scanned pictures on there from that tour.
Yes.
It's tour 4. If you look it up, and that picture's on there.
You should do a this was a scene slideshow next.
Oh my God, I should totally do that.
You know, and like talk about it. Like you should be like a speaker.
That's because I'll put all the time that I don't have to doing that. Yeah, so we went out. We played the Fireside. We played in like Athens, Georgia. We went down to Florida and back up, and that was a long. In 3 weeks, that was a long fucking tour.
Yeah, man. For being young and not knowing where you're going and just driving around in a random van with a map. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Great times though. Great times.
Yeah, that show was awesome. And then when we got back, like how long were you in the band? Because like I said at the beginning of this interview, and I definitely want to stay within like that the late 90s and early 2000s. But I figure like this takes us into that because it was still early 90s when you were near Miss, but then you found your way into Bigwig.
Yep.
And they had, because John and Josh had left, and then I think they replaced them with you and Max.
Yeah.
Right. But what was that transition from, when you went from Humble? Like, how did you start to kind of like separate from that?
I mean, I think it was just a matter of, people were just changing a little bit. And, I think like one of them, I remember having a conversation. I think maybe Chris or Josh, one of them were maybe going to school. And, like I said, like I always wanted to like tour and do as much as I can with music, So I think, and I was friends with the Bigwig guys for years prior to this, you know what I mean? Like, like back in Sticker. So it's like when Josh and I was good friends with Josh and John, like, and when those guys left, it was just kind of like, I think it was a very quick type of thing, they needed somebody quick. And it was just that time, it was an opportunity to take what I wanted to do further,
Yeah.
And that's why I did it, So I mean, and I did little like a tour with them like back in the day prior to playing with them, like just helping them out in guitar teching and stuff like that. And,
I remember that.
I was young too. I must have been like 19 or so. They did like a Canadian tour, and I went up there with them and played a couple songs with them every night. And so I obviously we had a friendship prior to me being in the band. So yeah, I mean, they asked me to play, and I said okay. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't much. Really wasn't much. It was weird though. Like I was so close to the Humble guys that I felt bad for leaving. Probably the first time that I actually felt bad leaving a band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I had made such good friendships with them, and I didn't want it to seem like it was like, I'm doing this because you guys aren't going somewhere or anything like that, because there was never, it was just in the moment type of thing, like it was like, okay, well, this is what's going to maybe be better for me. And now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do it, so it was kind of like a seamless thing. It just kind of happened, It happened pretty quick. I knew a lot of their songs even before I even joined. So
was there a difference? Because I got to think about just the different song styles you must have gone through to learning and progressing and playing guitar, right? You start off in Sticker, you're singing, then you're playing bass.
Uh-huh.
and then you're like, I want to play guitar. You start playing guitar, then you're in Highstrung, and then that like totally amps it up because you're around these guys who you're like, crap, they're really technical and it's a different sound, and I got to write these
Yeah.
different songs. And then you're in Humble, and Humble songs, even now, like I find them confusing.
Yeah, definitely different. You know what I mean? A little bit more straightforward, but not so straightforward. You know
Yeah,
what I
like
mean?
a lot of different chord. The chord there'd be like I feel like there was 4 or 5 different chord progressions in every damn song that you guys would
Yeah,
play.
Josh he had like a very certain way of writing, and it was very unique. And his voice in general was unique. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like when you hear him sing, it's humble. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So and playing with him too, like songwriting wise, I definitely like learned a lot, just like what to focus on and what not to focus on.
yeah. What did you get? Like, what were
Uh,
the things you took? What would you say if you look back in like the first, like those 4 bands? Before we like go like talk more about Bigwig stuff, but like what were like little pieces you thought you got from each of those, like from Sticker to Highstrung to Humble?
I mean, obviously, like as I was playing through the years, like I just got tighter and better at playing guitar. But with the Humble guys specifically, I think definitely like a really tight friendship. You know what I mean? I think that's what I definitely got from that. And when it comes to playing music, actually, like like definitely learning a little bit more about songwriting. You know what I mean? And what's important, what's maybe not so important. Whereas like in Highstrung, like I was so focused on like I want to write like a crazy palm mute fast riff and make it technical, and I wasn't even thinking about the vocal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, and then with Humble, I was like a lot more simplified guitar wise and trying to focus more on the melody. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a different thing. You know,
yeah.
and I think that's kind of stuck with me throughout.
What about so when you went to Bigwig? Because I felt like Bigwig songs were a lot faster, more
Yeah.
technical and things like that. So when you joined the band, was there ever an intimidation when you joined them? Because you're like, well, these guys they're on a label I mean, I thought Fearless was pretty big. I mean, I never thought they were up there with Fat, because Fat and Epitaph were like the big
Yeah,
labels.
definitely.
But I felt like Fearless was right there with like Hopeless and
Yeah.
what other bands were around then that were like, it's so funny. There's like a ton that I can think of.
Yeah, there was like 4 or 5 like pretty, the Kung Fu was another one.
Kung
Like,
Fu, yep.
there's California labels that, and then Side One came up. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a little intimidation there, as far as like they were more of, I guess, if you want to say pro level, you know what I mean? They had been doing it, they had been touring, they had been like doing it for a while. So it was a little bit different, like I had to be fucking good, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
playing with them definitely challenged me and got me a lot tighter for sure.
Was it weird to go from playing Legion halls all the time, and sometimes there'd be 10 kids, and then there was some shows like 50, maybe 70, and then you're on Bigwig and you're going on tours with these big bands like Snapcase and Pennywise, and then just these full clubs?
It definitely was a different vibe, definitely. But again, like I was so stoked to just play and tour. Like that's what I wanted to do so bad. So, I mean, the first tour I think I did with them was that Snapcase. It was like a festival type of, I think it was called Snow Jam or Snowcore. It was in Canada, and it was like Down by Law, Snapcase, a lot of random bands like Mustard Plug played, I think. Very, very diverse mix of music,
Yeah.
but that was amazing. The first time I saw Snapcase, I was just like, okay, holy shit. Like this is a whole different, that got me into like heavier music after like fast punk rock. I started changing what I was into like during Bigwig for sure.
Yeah, because go on.
Yeah, but I mean, I played with them for a good couple of years and toured a lot, and I got tight and made a lot of good connections and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to be on stage in front of like a couple thousand people that are singing lyrics back and be like, holy shit. Like, I'm definitely envious that you got to feel that.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. Bigwig was like the shit up in Canada. Like, you know what I mean? There was time when we did this No Use for Name tour, I remember there was a couple shows that we actually headlined over No Use for Name, which was insane.
Wow. Jesus.
So, they were just always going up there. Kids were just stoked on them.
Was Matt Riddle in the band when you guys were playing with No Use?
Yes, Matt was. Yeah.
Did you like what I used to he was like one of my total like influences when I first started playing
Yeah,
lead.
they were. I mean, at that point, like I was definitely listening to a lot of No Use for Name a lot at that point prior to even like being on that tour. So when we got that tour, I was like, holy shit, that's really sick. So I think I actually played with them a couple shows. I played that song Feeding the Fire with them on guitar.
Jesus.
Tony sang. So that was pretty awesome. Max taught me the song because I didn't know it. I was like, Max, you got to teach me the song. Like, please teach me the song in the van tonight. And he taught it to me. And I was like, yo, I'm playing the song tonight. And they were like, all right, awesome.
Crazy. Yeah, Max was a character. Yeah, I remember we played that weekend with you guys. It was Lane Meyer and Bigwig, and we went up to Binghamton and then New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And then we went to play the third show was a Sunday with the Ataris in Rhode Island.
Yep.
And that's when we first met Max, and we were in a van with him. Like you guys were in the Bigwig van, and then it was me, Chris, Sean, Casey, and Max was in our van. For some reason, he just jumped in with us, and he was like super quiet. And then all of a sudden, he just said something like super offensive, and we were like, game on.
Yeah. I mean, like when I met him, like I guess he was roadieing for Bigwig at the time when I met him technically, and he had like black hair, long black hair. He was wearing like a 10-foot pole shirt. I can remember this image in my head. It's crazy. And he had like above the knee shorts, and I think he wore a fanny pack. If he's listening to this, if he does, he's probably gonna be mad. But and I was like, whoa, look at this kid. Like, what's going on here? But he was so good, and he actually like before, like when I joined Bigwig, like there was that tour that I had to prepare for like right away, and I had like maybe like a month or so to learn like 15 plus songs or something like that. And Max, I sat in a bedroom with Max for like 2 weeks straight, and like he taught me every song guitar because he was that good on guitar too.
Wow.
And he taught me every song, like all the parts, that I need to know. But yeah, like that's a whole different conversation, I guess. But Max is
that's a whole episode right there, just talking about Max.
Yeah, right. No, but I mean, like, yeah, the Bigwig thing lasted like I guess 2 or 3 years. I recorded that one record with them.
Yeah, which one was that? It was the elephant on the cover, right?
Yeah, Invitation to Tragedy it was called.
Yes. Okay.
So and yeah, that was a great record. I still like every once in a while have people come up to me and be like, "That's the best Bigwig record. That album that you were on was the best album." I'm like, okay, awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember you guys had recorded that, and you had the demo of it, but there was no vocals. And I remember we're sitting in front of Sean's house in Fairlawn, which is funny because me and Sean just drove by it yesterday. It's on the Instagram, the Lane Meyer Instagram.
I saw that. Love it.
I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that's it. And so I remember sitting in front of there, and you were in someone's car playing it, and I walk up to it. I'm like, what is this? And you're like, this is the new Bigwig record. And I'm like, holy shit. And it was just music.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I remember that so vividly, but it was just like, Jesus Christ. And you're like, yeah, we're kind of stoked on this.
Yeah, that was a challenging album to record too. I didn't play on the whole record. I played on like half of it.
Okay.
Tom and I kind of like did certain things. He would cover like a whole song, and then I would do a lot of the song. But it was challenging, fast record. A lot of different intricate, crazy riffs and parts that he wrote.
Yeah. But, so then you go. So around this time, this is where I'll pretty much. I'm assuming more like other songs or other questions about like Jersey and stuff too. But so you ended up leaving Bigwig because you were like, it's time I start. I want to front a band again. I want to sing. I'm going to do this. And then you started Near Miss. Is that kind of like a watered down way of saying that?
Yes. Very watered down. But yeah, it was, I had met a girl when I was on tour with Bigwig from Austin, and we were kind of having a long distance relationship for a little bit. And there came a time when I was just like, Max, I believe, left the band first, I want to say.
Okay.
And then John came back for like a hot minute when I was in the band, and I think we played a couple shows together. But then it just started getting like to the point where I was just like, you know what, I want to move on. I want to do something on my own. I really wanted to do something on my own.
Yeah.
And Max then got offered to work for Sum 41 to roadie. So he roadied for them for a long time. And
Shut.
you know, we would talk on and off. And there was a period when I was just like, you know what, I need to get the hell out of Jersey. Like I just wanted to get out of there, get
Yeah.
out of here, you know. And I was, you know, basically dating this girl, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go down to Austin and feel it out. And that's what I did. I
What was your
literally I decided to move
why
like
Austin though? What was she from there, or is it just
she was from there. And then this dude that we met, technically we met this dude when I was in Bigwig on tour. He wound up roadieing for Bigwig. He was from Austin. This dude Mike Bingham, one of my best friends.
Mhm.
And he was still living there, so I moved down there to hang out with him, obviously be with this girl, and he wound up being the bass player of Near Miss. And Max and I, like, we were talking for a while I was in Austin. I probably was in Austin for like a good, I would say 3 to 6 months before playing and starting, because he was still working for Sum 41, and he had like a couple weeks off in the middle of everything, I believe. I might be telling the story wrong, but he had a couple weeks off, I think, and we decided, like, I was sending him riffs back and forth of like 3 songs, and we were like, hey, let's go in the studio and go record. So he had a couple weeks off. We recorded a couple songs upstate New York at our friend Bobby and Mike Kalasian, which is mastering a lot of albums now. We wound up recording like a 3-song demo, just me and him. I did all the guitar and song, and then he did all the drums and played bass on it. And then he wound up taking a bunch of demos while he was on Warped Tour, giving them out. And, you know, we started just giving these demos out to random people. And then, you know, Fearless got a demo and was like, we want to put something out, you know?
Yeah.
Came together pretty quick, but we didn't even have, like, we basically had a label before we even had the band together. It was weird.
That's awesome. It's kind of like Foo Fighters is a bit of a stretch, but it was just, you know, record stuff, put it out there, and say, yeah, and then all of a sudden, instead of busting your ass for all the years, and you're like, well, we'll just put some songs around and, you know, let's see if we can get this going.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it was at the end of him working with Sum 41, and he was going to move back to Canada, I remember, and I was like, dude, come to Austin, just come to Austin, like, you know, let's start a band, let's just do it, like, let's do it for fun, and let's, like, try to make this happen for as long as we can, you know? And he agreed, and then we all basically lived together for a little bit, and we met the guitar player for Near Miss through the girl I was dating. She went to high school with him, and he was just like a ripping guitar player, this dude Sean, and that's how the band came together pretty quick. Like, Mike Bingham was, you know, a roadie from Bigwig, and we were really good friends with him. He didn't even know how to play bass. He just, like, picked up bass to be in the band. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But it worked out. You know, and we did that for a long time, man. I guess we were technically a band from like 01 or 2002 to like 2007.
Is it weird to think, because you know, and I love tying all this in, because, you know, especially since in the last hour and a half or 2 hours we've been talking, it's, you started off with Sticker and you just like want to play music, and to go all the way to this point where now when you're starting over again, you've got that taste of touring. And it's not, when you start a band in the beginning, it's just, I want to play a show. And now you've done it for so many years in big shows and get on stage and know your name and play it and like see Snapcase and play these big shows and thousands of people are screaming to you. So when you're starting a band over again and then you're in a new city,
yeah,
you know, I feel like you want to get quickly back up to that point of just playing these large shows. And it's almost, it's like you are excited to play, but if you play a show and you like all of a sudden 5 kids show up and you're like, God damn. Like that's
yeah,
gonna be hard.
I mean, when we started Near Miss after we got the Fearless deal, we actually got some really good tours right away. We got some good stuff right away. We did a couple, I mean, through the years, we did like 3 Warped Tours, I think. But we did a lot of good stuff, and it was not, you know, we were on good tours, but we were not seeing like, okay, when we go back to that city, like, oh, now there's 100 kids at our show or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, like when we were touring by ourselves or smaller packages, you know, we were always playing in front of like 30 to 50 people. Usually it wasn't a lot of people, but the good tours we got on were awesome. You know what I mean? Like we got some stuff. But you know, things were changing too with music in general. Like we were still playing that fast kind of punk rock, a little bit melodic, you know, it was a little heavier here and there. But there was this whole change, like there was music, it was starting to change a little bit. There was like more of like an image. You had to have an image.
Yeah.
And when we were Fearless, actually, I'll just go into this really quick. So like basically we were on Fearless for a while. We toured probably a good 2 years on that record that we did. And then Fearless got bought out by like a major. They had like Sugar Cult on the label. They were getting a lot of big bands, and we were out in California at the time, and we had like a little quick meeting with them, and they were like, look, there's some changes. The new people think you guys should get more of an image and maybe change your name, like crazy shit like that. You know what I mean? And we were like so punk rock minded in our heads that we were like, what? You know what I mean?
Fuck that shit.
And we were like, what? And we were actually like shown like a video of My Chem, with, I guess they had like makeup or shirts with ties or whatever, something like that. And listen, bands could do whatever they want. That just wasn't our thing. We didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But there was like an ultimatum. It was like, listen, if you guys don't do this, you're going to get dropped. To some extent, that was the conversation,
That's so wild.
And I remember like literally we all walked out of the office like with our heads down and our like feeling like little dogs that just got spanked. Like, you know what I mean?
You like Charlie Brown walked it out.
I remember we literally got in the van and nobody said shit like for like 15 minutes. And we were like, well, I guess we don't have a label. Like, it was literally like that,
How close?
It was a bummer. It was definitely a bummer.
How close to the end was that?
That wasn't close to the end because we wind up, like still playing probably and touring on our own. We still had a booking agent and stuff. So we still toured and played a lot without a label, probably for a good year and a half. It was really rough, but we all got like little day jobs in Austin and made it work. But we were still touring a lot. And then we met, we played with Yellow Card at some point, and we met their guitar player, Ben, and he had started a label and basically asked us if we wanted to do a record with him. And that's how we did our second record.
Oh shit.
So
that's
and then we found ourselves with a label again. You know what I mean? It was not as like known and as big as Fearless, but Ben had a very good name at that point, and he was doing a lot with Yellow Card, and there was money there, and they helped us out a lot. We took us to California. We recorded a record with this dude Steve Kravac that did a lot of like MXPX records and bands like that, and we recorded at Greg Hedson's studio from Bad Religion. He had a studio in his house.
Jesus.
And we did a record there, and it was a different record than the first record. We were starting to like try to experiment with like drop tunings and more of a different sound, and it was kind of a record that got away from us in a different, like in a lot of ways. Like I don't think we were ready to write that record. Like we had it in our mind, like we want to be like this heavier band, still fast here and there, but if we're going to do fast songs, we were like, let's make them like 1:50 and like make them fast and heavy and done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we wanted to do a little bit more down tempo, halftime stuff. And, that album's different than the first album, very different.
Yeah. I mean, you're eventually going to mature out of the way you used to write.
Yeah. I mean, Max and I were listening to like a lot of like heavier stuff then, you know what I mean? Like I always grew up with bands like Quicksand and Helmet. Like I always loved Fugazi. I always loved these bands throughout, like playing punk rock, but never really played in a band like that. You know what I'm saying? And I always kind of wanted to, but I just didn't. That's just not the way it worked out, So we started really wanting to be that kind of band,
When did you finally just say, I'm fucking done?
With Near Miss or what?
Yeah, well, because you still play music all the time in like 50,000 bands.
Yeah.
But...
Well, basically what happened, like, to make a long story short, Near Miss was around for a good 5 years or so. We did a lot of tours, did a bunch of Warped tours. And then in around 07, like early 07, Max was very burnt out. Like there was just changes. We had gone through a couple different guitar players. So we were a 3-piece for a while, and it just started getting hard to do what we were doing, and make money and try to like pay rent. We were just like kind of getting burnt out. Like we literally toured like sometimes like 7 months out of the year. Like for the first couple of years, like we were fucking on the road, like nonstop. At one point I remember we were like, why do we even live in Austin? Why are we paying for a place? Because we're literally like on tour so much that we were considering moving to California because the label was out there, but we didn't do that. We were just burnt out, and it so happened Max was like, he was like, listen, I want to like maybe go to school, or I want to slow down a little bit. And we were like, all right, well, that fucking sucks kind of, because myself and Mike were the bass player. We were like still ready to do stuff, but we knew like things were changing. We felt things were changing. But then my dad got sick, like in 2007, like my dad had a stroke, and it kind of put a lot of things in perspective, because I was like, okay, so now, the band is basically on its way out, and because we definitely weren't going to go on without Max, like, just no way. So we were like, I was like, you know what? I'm fucking going back to Jersey. I need to go back to Jersey. And my dad was sick. Like, it was bad. It was like he had a very bad stroke, and it changed a lot of things for me in general. So I basically picked up and left, like, out of nowhere. Like, just went back home, I flew back home to be with my dad. He was like in ICU in the hospital for like 3 weeks. And then I had a decision to make, like, okay, am I going to go back to Austin, or am I going to come back up here? And I wound up saying, I'm going to move back to Jersey. So I went back to Austin, got all my shit together, got in a U-Haul, and drove back to Jersey.
Yeah, I remember seeing you. This is a total random story, but I remember meeting. There was something going on at Maxwell's, and you had just gotten back from Austin, and it was like a birthday party or something like that. I think it was Amber was in town. Amber's a mutual friend of ours from Chicago who we met years ago when playing in shows. Amber's like the shot. And yeah, I think she was in town, and I was living in Hoboken at the time, and she was like, yeah, you should come to Maxwell's. And we were in that outer room that faces Washington. And it was the first time I had seen you, and then Josh showed up, and I was like, holy shit, I haven't seen you in fucking forever. And it was just there's no really point where I'm going with the story, but it was just so weird because that was right at the time where you came back, and you're like, yeah, man, like shit happened to my dad. I'm just kind of back here, and it was just seemed like you were in the spot of just like, not fuck, but you were just like, yeah, I'm just gonna, I don't know, next chapter, next thing to think about.
Yeah, it was a weird, dark time for me. I mean, like, I took care of my dad for a while, and I honestly, when I came back, I was like, I'm not gonna play in a band. Like, I really didn't want to. Like, I was so focused on taking care of him, and it was just a whole different thing. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with music. If something, I was actually thinking, like, I'm going to just start playing by myself and do like a solo thing, because I've always wanted to do it for years. And I was like, maybe this is that time. And then, like, I wound up, like, I think I was in Jersey for like point with my, and
wait, you cut
Jeremy,
out you cut out there real quick. You said you were back in Jersey for, and then it cut out. So you were back in Jersey for what, like a year, a month?
No. I was back in Jersey. I was back in Jersey probably like 3 months at that point, taking care of my dad. And Jeremy Komitas, that played in Highstrung after me, he hit me up and he was like, hey man, I saw you're back in town. Like, we should hang out. And like, we hung out, and he had a little recording thing, and he recorded a couple songs of just me and acoustic. And then he was like, yo, you should start another band. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't have the energy to find people to play with. I don't know how old I was at this point, but probably 28 or 29 maybe.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know if I have that energy to like seek out people that I'm gonna like jive with and everything. And he was like, oh, I know some people, you know what I mean? So he was like, so he got some people, and we wind up that's how Balance Between started, and I found myself in another band, like,
Get sucked right back in.
Yeah, and we just it was fun. It was good. Like,
it was different though, because you weren't doing it to go tour again. You were like,
no,
I'm just gonna play Jersey now.
Thing, man. It was a whole different thing. It was like, I said to myself, this time I'm not gonna worry about anything beyond like just playing. I want to have a good time. That's what I always had, and I still have that mentality now. Like, I would love to do music at full time as a career, but it's just not the way it is. But like, and that band started pretty quick, and we did a lot. Like, and we're still kind of active, but everybody kind of has lives and jobs and wives and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I met a lot of good people through that band. Like, one of my best friends, Rob, that plays bass in the band, like, we're in Red Hymns together, so It's crazy how things work out, but I definitely didn't want to be in a band again. That wasn't a focus when I came back here. It was the last thing on my mind. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. Just being very cautious because you're on your lunch break right now, and it's what is it, 12:52, 12:51, and you've got to be off by 1:05. Okay, so I would keep going in that direction, but I wanted to ask a couple questions to close this out. And so real quick, out of all the bands, what was the best show you ever played?
Jesus, best show that I ever played?
It's a very loaded question because it's kind
That's
of a bullshit
crazy,
question.
man. I don't know. Like, there's definitely a couple of them, but I would say like one of the highlight shows was probably the Maxwell show that we played together on that last week. You know, like that one. Maxwell's was always like the place in Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we sold it out together. Like that was like crazy. You know what I mean? We were stoked on that. So I would say that one was definitely up there. You know, probably one of the bigwig shows at some point on one of those tours. But as far as like I can think, like definitely that Humble Lane Meyer reunion was definitely like an awesome time. You know?
Yeah, that was crazy though because we sold that out really fast, and it was just holy shit. I can't believe we just did this.
Yeah, it was definitely amazing.
Which band would you go back and be in full time?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I would love to play with Near Miss again because we never had like a closure to ending the band. It kind of just ended because, you know, what happened with my dad and the way things were. So I would love to do something with them again. But I would say like as far as reforming and being like a current, I would say Humble, honestly. I really would.
What about it? Like why would that be the choice?
I don't know. There's an energy there that I've gotten through the years with like just even playing the songs up to right now. Like that's just like hard to capture again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would say Humble. Yeah. And then just the friendship that I made with those guys, and there's just some sort of connection there.
Do you think you could connect and do that same style now?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we actually like talked. Josh and I were actually talking about like writing a couple songs and just like throwing them out there on the internet, you know, on the interweb.
That's a fantastic idea.
So yeah, I mean, like, I think we could maybe do something. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like, hey, we're getting the band back together, you know, but who knows, you know, like you never know. Like if we feel inspired to do something, maybe I'm sure we will, you know.
What are your thoughts about the reunion show? When this comes, I mean, technically it's Wednesday right now, but, you know, quote unquote, tomorrow, Saturday, when people are listening to this podcast.
I'm really excited for it. I mean, I'm excited to see. It's always so cool to see people from back then. You know what I mean? And yeah. I know there's probably. I remember last time there was like so many people that came up to me, and I was like, I don't even know who these people are. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even remember who these people are. Like, that's how. But that's so cool, you know. Like, obviously, like the scene that we were all involved in. It's not like it was some world-known scene or anything like that, but there was obviously a really cool connection between a lot of people. You know, and people all connected. It was a timing thing. I always say that it's like a specific certain time that just like everybody was like stoked on.
Yeah, you know, there's gonna be these just random conversations, or someone's gonna come up to you and they're gonna say, "Hey, blah blah blah, it's me," and you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe," and it's just gonna be like, "Holy shit, I haven't seen you in forever." I mean, I think that's gonna happen a lot, but
yeah, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to not, because you guys play before us, and it sucks for me because I just want to be in the crowd singing along, and I have to like make sure I can sing after.
You have to watch your voice there, buddy.
I know it sucks because all I want to do is
lip sync. You're allowed to lip sync.
Yeah, I'll have to lip sync. That'll be so lame, but I have to do it. And yeah, because it sucks because I don't want to be. I want to be out there and walking around and seeing people, but it's like, you know, it's like we can't sit there and talk to everybody because we're gonna burn our voices out and get up and sound like complete shit. So
right.
It's like, but then the good thing is at the party afterwards for like 4 hours, then we were like, I'll do it then. You know, stay after. I'll do it then.
Yeah, no, it's so cool that we're doing it again because, you know, now it's just it seemed right and the timing was perfect and it came together, you know.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that what you've done with the podcast. I mean, it's like you've connected probably a lot of people again and just bringing it up in general. So that's awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's it's awesome. I actually someone's this Melissa sent me this connection to this guy Bill from Pop Break, and so I'm literally writing this questionnaire out right now to send it back to him about the whole thing. And he asked me at the podcast, and he's like, why did you focus on the scene and what was so inspiring? And I'm like, I can't even just put this in a paragraph.
Right.
It's you have to go listen to it. Like, you have to go listen to just these conversations and stories all you guys tell. It's like everyone just goes and they're like, man, I'm back there again. And everyone loved it.
Everybody kind of has like the same type of things to say to some degree, but that's how everybody was very connected through, all this music, and it's sick.
Yeah. Sick. All right, man. So to close this out, and what scene ethics do you still hold on to this day?
I would definitely say I have definitely a punk rock mind frame for so many things in life in general, you know what I mean? And doing things on your own and by yourself and finding ways. And I don't know, there's so many things that I've learned from just playing music. Like, it's crazy, you know what I mean? Like, I always said, like, maybe like I could, if I was into music, I could have been like into drugs or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, think about so many people involved in that scene that were not maybe doing certain things that other people were doing in high school and this shit, whatever, so a lot of things are probably owed to it,
Yeah. So last thing, do you want to promote anything? Because since you are in bands, do you want to let people know?
Yeah, I'm playing in a band called Red Hymns, and Monkey's in the band with me, plays drums. My good friend Rob and Alex plays guitar. And we just been doing it for the last year or so, year and a half, playing out as much as we can. We're we're like a full-time band to some degree with normal lives and jobs. You know what I mean? Like, as much, take it serious, and we're into it, and just trying to put out music. That's it.
Where do people typically find you? Like the whole, like, Clifton
it's
area?
It's
like Clifton. And where's like the main place you usually play?
We play kind of all over. Jersey's hard for places now, you know what I mean? We played at Debonair a couple times. We play in Pennsylvania here and there. But there's music on the internet everywhere. We have a Facebook, Instagram, all that shit. So
one final thought for anyone who's thinking on the fence of going to the show on Saturday or not. What would you say to them?
Dude, listen, I'm not going to say we're not going to do this again. But
you guys, definitely.
No, but I think there's a good 97% chance that we probably won't do this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just being that, you're out of state, and a lot of people are so busy and with crazy lives, and I think this is the time to go to the show. You know what I mean? We're all pushing 40 years old to some degree. I'm not yet. You're not
pushing 40.
Sean may. Sean may be.
Sean might be close to 40. He just goes, whoa.
It's like you have to go. You know what I mean? You have to go and have a good time. It's like a big reunion and hopefully we all don't suck that much. I think we've all gotten under 5 practices together, but we're gonna make it work. We're stoked.